with the help of the concept of data types, I will be able to manage my memory. Mainly, we are classifying this data types into 3 different categories. Please understand, this is very important. So this is predefined, it is already defined, but this is you are trying to define your own data type. So integer ಅಂದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಎಷ್ಟು capacity of memory allocate ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ? So 2 bytes. Hello everyone, I welcome all of you to the second session on data types. So guys, what is that I have in the second session? Let's check that. So before going to the second session, I would like to give you the recap. What is that I have done in the first session? Let's have a quick small recap before I move on to the next topic. I will select the pen. Yes. So guys, I have discussed the variables. What is the concepts of variables? That is what I have discussed in the previous session. So how do we declare the variables? What is the syntax to declare the variables? So please listen here. First I have to write the data type. I have to write the data type. Then I have to give a space, and then I should write the variable name. After that, semicolon. The end of the statement should be semicolon. The first thing. So let's take an example. Int is a data type. Fine. Variable name, I will write A. Then after that, semicolon. This is how I will be declaring the data type. How the data type? Yes, remember, this is how I will be declaring the data type as plus variable. Point number 1. Point number 2, what is that I have to remember with respect to variable? Value, whatever I store, for example, A is equal to 10. So this value, it will be changing throughout the program. How does, sir? Yes, it can change throughout the program. It is not constant. Is what you have to remember. So this is what I had discussed in the previous session. So now in this session I will be discussing a very important topic. Very ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಡಿ sir ಅದು ತಪ್ಪು. Yes sir, ಏನು ಮಾಡೋದು? Very important topic, that is data types. So guys, moving on to the next one. So the next thing is data types. So guys, why do we have this data type? It's very important that all of you should understand. Before I start this topic, I would like to tell you a small simple story. Imagine I'll go to the provision store. In that provision store, I would like to buy 3 things. First one is 1 kg sugar. Okay, what is the first one? 1 kg of sugar. Second one is half kg rice. So guys, these 2 things I want to buy in the provision store. I'll go to the provision store. I want to buy these 2 things. Very interesting thing that you need to understand and you need to imagine what happens. For 1 kg sugar, they will use 1 kg bag, the capacity of 1 kg bag. For half kg rice, they will use the capacity of half kg bag. They will not use 1 kg bag for both the things. Why? Because if they use 1 kg bag for this half kg also, then it is a waste. So why do I need it? So instead of wasting the bag, so I will prefer half kg rice bag. ಸರ್ ನಾನು ಅರ್ಧ ಕೆ ಜಿ ರೈಸ್ನ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಅರ್ಧ ಕೆ ಜಿ ಇಡಿ ಅಂತ ಕವರಿಗೆ ಹಾಕಿ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ, 1 ಕೆ ಜಿ ಕವರಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕ್ಕೊಡಲ್ಲ. ಹೌದಾ? ಹೌದು. ಸೊ 1 ಕೆ ಜಿ ಶುಗರ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ 1 ಕೆ ಜಿ ಹಿಡಿಯೋ ಅಂತ ಕವರಿಗೆ ಹಾಕಿ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಹೌದಾ? ಹೌದು. ಯಾಕೆ? ಸೊ ದೇ ಡೋಂಟ್ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ವೇಸ್ಟ್. ಇನ್ ದ ಸೇಮ್ ವೇ, ಸರ್, memory is a very costliest thing in your computer. Whenever you are writing a program, please remember 3 things. What is the first thing? First of all, it should not be lengthy. Your program should not be lengthy. Second one is it should not take more time for the execution. And the third thing is it should not consume more memory. ಇಮ್ಯಾಜಿನ್ ನೀವು ವಾಟ್ಸಪ್ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಸರ್, ವಾಟ್ಸಪ್ ಓಪನ್ ಆಗೋಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ದಿನ ಆದರೆ ವಾಟ್ಸಪ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ. ಫೇಸ್ಬುಕ್ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಫೇಸ್ಬುಕ್ ಓಪನ್ ಆಗೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಇವತ್ತು ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಾಳೆ ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ಓಪನ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ನೋಡೋಣ ಫೇಸ್ಬುಕ್ ಅಂತ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಗೈಸ್, so you will not be using your functions or the apps if it is taking too much of time. In the same way, if your WhatsApp is consuming 3 to 4 GB of memory, use ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? ಇಲ್ಲ. In the same way, Facebook 3 to 4 GB of space, use ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? ಇಲ್ಲ. Same way, how do I reduce the usage of memory? So that's very, very important. So that is what we need to understand. How do we do that? How do we do that? Please check back. How do we do that? With the help of the concept of data types, I will be able to manage my memory. I'll be able to manage my memory. Sir, henge, how do you manage the memory? How do you manage the memory? Point number 1, you need to understand. I will be writing the data. It can be integer data, that is like, for example 10, this is what I will call it as an integer data. I'll be writing float data 10.35, which I have already discussed. I'll be writing the string, for example Mysuru string, this is what I will call it as a string data. I'll be writing character data. So each data whatever I have, the size of this data is different. The size of this data is different. Point number 1, size of this data is different. So this might require 2 bytes, this require 4 bytes, this require 1 byte. The size of this data is entirely different. Yes to sir size, which I will be discussing in detail in the coming slides. As of now, you need to understand the size of this data, whatever I am using. Each data is different data. This is different data. The data size is different from one data to another data. So what is the problem here? I cannot allocate same memory for all the data types. Imagine, what is the maximum that I have? 4. Can I allocate 4 for all the data types? Imagine, idukku nan 4 bytes na allocate ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, 3 remaining 3 is waste. Am I managing the memory efficiently? No. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು 4 allocate ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. Can I store the data? Yes, I can store, but remaining 2, it's a waste. Then how do I manage the data? To solve this problem, we are using a concept called data types. If I use integer data type, this much of memory should be allocated. If I use float data type, this much of memory should be allocated. This type of data should be stored. I have predefined. So how many different data types I have? I will be discussing that in detail in the coming slides. Moving on to the next slide. So guys, how many different data types we have? Mainly we are classifying this data types into 3 different categories. Please understand, this is very, 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 very important. I want all of you to write down. Please barkoli idana on book alli. So how many different data types we have? We have mainly 3 different data types. The first one I will call it as a fundamental data types. These fundamental data types I will call it as a built-in data types. Idanna enanta karitini? Built-in data types anta karitini. The first category of the data types is fundamental data types. Data types alli 3 ತರ category barutte. First one I will call it as a fundamental data types. What is the second one that I have? Derived data type. The second type of data type I will call it as a derived data type, and the third one is user defined data type. Sir, ಏನು sir ಇದು fundamental data type, derived data type, user defined data type? So please understand this. Fundamental data types are the basic built-in data types. It is already there. It is already there in the language. Please understand derived data type. Derived data type in the sense, what is the meaning of it? Imagine, I'll take an example. Sir, ನಿಮ್ಮದು ಏಜ್ ಹೇಳಿ ಸರ್. ನಿಮ್ಮದು ಏಜ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನಂದು ಡೇಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಬರ್ತ್ ಹೇಳೋಕ್ಕಾಗುತ್ತಾ? ಇಲ್ಲ, ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ಏಜ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಡೇಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಬರ್ತ್ ಹೇಳೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಡೇಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಬರ್ತ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಏಜ್ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದಾ? ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಐ ಕಾಲ್ ದಟ್ ಏಜ್ as a derived data? Can I call that age as a derived data? So from where you have derived? From the date of birth I have derived. From the date of birth I have derived the age. Same way, derived data type is derived ಫ್ರಮ್ ಫಂಡಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್. ಈ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪ್ನ ನಾನು ಈ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಸೊ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ಸ್ ವೈ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಕಾಲ್ ದಿಸ್ ಆಸ್ ಡಿರೈವ್ಡ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪ್. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದಿಸ್ ಯೂಸರ್ ಡಿಫೈನ್ಡ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪ್? ಇದು ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ, ಇದನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಈ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಬಟ್ ಇವೆರಡು ಹೆಂಗಿದೆ ಹಂಗೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಸಿಸ್ಟಮಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ರೂಲ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮಿಂಗ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜಲ್ಲಿ, ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ರೂಲ್ಸ್ ದಟ್ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಫಾಲೋ ದ ಸೇಮ್ ರೂಲ್ಸ್. ಬಟ್ when it comes to this user defined data type, you have the complete privilege. You can create your own data type. You can create your own data type. You in the sense what? User can create the data type. Such data types I will call it as user defined data type. Such data types I will call it as a user defined data type. Mainly 3 different data types I have. The first one is fundamental data type. The second one is derived data type, and the third one is user defined data type. So let us understand that in detail one by one. So guys, this is a beautiful tree which you should remember. Even if you close your eyes, you should be able to recollect this. I'll just move out of the frame. Please take a screenshot or just make a note of it. I suggest all of you to take the screenshot of it. If I stand in between, no, it will disturb. So please take a screenshot of this. So we have the 3 different data types in C++. What is the first one that we have? So can you all tell me? This is what I will call it as a fundamental data type. So this is what I will call it as a derived data type, and this is the user defined data type. So how many data types mainly? So C++ data type is getting classified into fundamental data type, derived data type, and then come on, tell me, user defined data type. Fundamental data type na start ಮಾಡೋಣ. So fundamental data type ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? What is the meaning? Built in data type. ಈ built in data type ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ data types ಇದೆ? So which are all the different data types that we have? We have so many different data types in the fundamental data type. Let us understand that one by one. So first we are starting with integer. What exactly this integer is all about? So can you all tell me what is integer? I will be able to store the integer values. I'll be able to store integer values, which I'll be discussing what exactly this integer is all about in detail in the coming slide. As of now, for example, if I want to store a is equal to 10, so this is the integer value. So guys, I will be able to store this integer. This is the integer value. So this is the integer data type. So character in the sense what? What is the second data type in the fundamental data type? Character. Suppose if I want to store one single character, so I will be able to store in this data type. So what is this float? 10 point, a is equal to 10.35. So this is what I will call it as a floating point number. ಈ ತರ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂನ ನಾನು ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು? ಫ್ಲೋಟ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪ್. And I have double, so which is more capable of storing the value than float. The capacity of double is more than float. Double precision values na store ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಏನು double precision value? I'll be discussing that in detail. As of now, you have to remember these data types. That's it. So then what is this void? Void, it does not return any value. So do you remember ನಾನು void main ಅಂತ ಬರ್ದಿದ್ದೆ main function ಗೆ? Do you remember void main? Sir ಈ ತರ ಬರ್ದಿದ್ದೆ ನಾನು. What is the meaning of void? This main function does not return anything ಅಂತ. Void in the sense it does not return anything. Void in the sense what? It does not return anything. For example, your friends. What is that? Your friends. Even if you treat, there will be some of your friends. ಏನೇ ಕೊಡ್ಸಿದ್ರು ಅವ್ನು ಏನೋ ವಾಪಸ್ ಕೊಡ್ಸಲ್ಲ. That friend we call it as a void friend. That friend we call it as a void friend. Void in the sense what? It does not return anything. That's what you have to understand. So what is this boolean? Boolean in the sense 0 or 1. 0 or 1. That's what you have to understand. True or false. True in the sense 1, false in the sense 0. Can you recollect? So ನಾನು ಕೇಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಇಷ್ಟೇ ನೀವು ನೆನ್ಪಿಟ್ಕೋಬೇಕೀಗ. ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್, ಫಂಡಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್. ಏನು? ಫಂಡಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್. ಫಂಡಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ್ಯಾವ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ? ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಇಂಟೀಜರ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಏನು ಬರುತ್ತೆ? ಇಂಟೀಜರ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಒನ್ ಏನು ಬರುತ್ತೆ? ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಥರ್ಡ್ ಒನ್ ಏನು ಬರುತ್ತೆ? ಫ್ಲೋಟ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಫೋರ್ತ್ ಒನ್ ಏನು ಬರುತ್ತೆ? ಡಬಲ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ವಾಯ್ಡ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಬೂಲಿಯನ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಇಷ್ಟೇ ನೆನ್ಪಿಟ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್? ಇಂಟೀಜರ್, character, float, double, void, boolean. So these data types, I will call it as a fundamental data types or built-in data types. Using this data types, I have derived some of the data types. So that is what I will call it as a derived data type. Second category of data types. In derived data type, how many data types I have? The first one is array. ಏನು ಸರ್ ಇದು ಅರೆ? ಹಿಂದಿ ವರ್ಡ್ ಬೈತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರೋ ಒಬ್ಬನ ಕೂತಿರೋನ್ನ ಕರೆಯೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ? ಓ ಅರೆ, ಇದರ ದೇಖೋ. ಆ ಅರೆನಾ? ಆ ಅರೆ ಅಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಇದೇ ಬೇರೆ ಅರೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಡಿರೈವ್ಡ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪ್. ಡಿರೈವ್ಡ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ? 4. ಡಿರೈವ್ಡ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಥರ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ? 4. ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ಅರೆ, ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ functions, third one is pointers, and fourth one is references. ಇದಿಷ್ಟೇ ನೆನ್ಪಿಟ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಅರೇಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, ಪಾಯಿಂಟರ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, ರೆಫರೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು. ರೆಫರೆನ್ಸಸ್ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪೋರ್ಷನ್ಸಲ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಸೊ ಇದಿಷ್ಟು ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಬೈ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್. ಇವನ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟರ್ಸು ಯು ವಿಲ್ ನಾಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಮಚ್, ಸೊ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ದ ಬೇಸಿಕ್ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟರ್. ಅರೇಸ್, ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ separate chapter ಇದೆ, so I will be discussing that in detail. As of now, you don't have to worry what is the meaning of arrays and what is the meaning of function. ಏನು ತಲೆ ಕೆಡಿಸ್ಕೋಬೇಡಿ, I will discuss in detail. You just have to remember, so more data type ಇದೆ. Fundamental, derived, user defined. Fundamental ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ್ದು ಬರುತ್ತೆ, derived ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ್ದು ಬರುತ್ತೆ, user defined ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ್ದು ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಅಷ್ಟೇ ನೀವು ತಿಳ್ಕೋಬೇಕೀಗ. ಸೊ ಫಸ್ಟ್ derived ಅಲ್ಲಿ 4 ಬರುತ್ತೆ. Fine, we understood that. So how many data types I will have in the user defined data type? I will have 4. So you will have structure, you will have unions, you will have classes, you will have enumerations. Structure andre enu, I will be discussing that with the chapter, complete chapter there. So you in your portion I will be discussing that in detail. You have unions also in the same chapter. So you will not study what is classes, and bit of enumerations you will study. So structure andre enu, union andre enu. Ee data types alla user defined data types. Using this data types you can create your own data types. That's what you have to understand. What is that? Using this you will be able to create your own data type. That is what you have to understand. So this is predefined, it is already defined, but this is you are trying to define your own data type. So that's what you have to understand. So let's recollect. What is that we have studied? Data type ಇದೆ. So data type ಅಲ್ಲಿ how many different data types we have? 3 different data types. First one is what? Fundamental data types. Fundamental data types ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? Built-in data types. Built-in data types ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು data types ಬರುತ್ತೆ? 1 2 3 4 5 6. 6 ಬರುತ್ತೆ. I will write the number. 6 ಬರುತ್ತೆ. So 6 ಬಂದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಏನು ಹೊಡಿತೀರಾ? 4 ಹೊಡಿತೀರಾ. ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು 4 ಹೊಡಿತೀರಾ. ಏನು ಹೊಡಿತೀರಾ? 4 ಹೊಡಿತೀರಾ. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಏನು ಹೊಡಿತೀರಾ? 6 ಹೊಡಿತೀರಾ. ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ 2 4 ಹೊಡಿತೀರಾ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ರಿಮೆಂಬರ್. ಸೊ ಹೌ ಮೆನಿ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್? 6. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಇಂಟೀಜರ್. ಇಂಟೀಜರ್ ಅಂದ ತಕ್ಷಣ 10 ಅಂತ ತಲೆಗೆ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಒನ್ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್, ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂದೇ ಒಂದು ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ ಡಬಲ್ ಕೋಟ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಫ್ಲೋಟ್, ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಬರಬೇಕು ನಿಮಗೆ ತಲೆಗೆ. ಸೊ 10.35 ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಸಮ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ, ದಟ್ ಶುಡ್ ಕಮ್ ಟು ಯುವರ್ ಮೈಂಡ್. ಡಬಲ್, ವಾಯ್ಡ್, ವಾಯ್ಡ್ ಅಂದರೆ ನಥಿಂಗ್, ಬೂಲಿಯನ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಟ್ರೂ ಆರ್ ಫಾಲ್ಸ್. ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಶುಡ್ ಕಮ್ ಟು ಯುವರ್ ಮೈಂಡ್. ಮೇನ್ ಆಗಿ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸಿಂಗ್ ದಿಸ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ chapter wise later. Hope you got my point. Okay, so let's start and understand integer. As I told you, integer is allocated how many bytes, ಎಷ್ಟು capacity. ನಾನು ಬ್ಯಾಗ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ 1 kg ಬ್ಯಾಗು, half kg ಬ್ಯಾಗು. ಸೊ ಇಂಟೀಜರ್ ಅಂದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಎಷ್ಟು ಕೆಪಾಸಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಅಲೋಕೇಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ? ಸೊ 2 bytes. ಸೊ ಟೋಟಲ್ 16 bits. So what is the size of integer? 2 bytes. That's what you have to understand. So find 2 bytes of memory will be allocated. So what type of value? How do I declare integer variable? You have to use a keyword called int. Integer variable na ನೀವು declare ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ you have to use a keyword called int, and then you should write a variable name. Remember, identifier ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ನೇಮ್ನ ನೀವು ಡಿಫೈನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ರೂಲ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದೇ ನಿಮಗೆ ಹೆಸರಿಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಜಾತಕ, ನಕ್ಷತ್ರ, ದಿನ ಎಲ್ಲ ನೋಡ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ, ಸೇಮ್ ವೇ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಫಾಲೋ ಸಮ್ ರೂಲ್ಸ್ ಟು ಡಿಫೈನ್ ಎನಿ ನೇಮ್. please go back and check in the previous video. I have discussed that in tokens, right? So you have to follow that name, you have to follow that rules for that name. Same way I will just write the name. So what type of variable is this? This is a variable of type integer. This is a variable of type integer is what you have to understand. So how do I assign the value? So a is equal to 10. A is equal to 10. So 10 is integer. Is 10 is integer? Yes, it is integer. This is type 1. This is one type of declaring a integer variable. What is the second type? Please observe here. Please observe here. I can also write int a is equal to 10. Instead of writing it in 2 lines, I can also write like this. This is also a valid statement. This is one of the important things that you should remember. Okay? So hope you got. So ಏನಕ್ಕೆ integer ನೇ ತಗೋತೀರಾ? ಎಲ್ಲದಕ್ಕೂ ಯಾಕೆ ಒಂದೇ ತಗೊಳ್ಳಲ್ಲ? ಒಂದೇ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳಲ್ಲ? ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ತಗೋತೀರಾ? ಇಂಟ್ ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ತಗೋತೀರಾ? ಫ್ಲೋಟ್ ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ತಗೋತೀರಾ? ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ತಗೋತೀರಾ? You will understand now. The size you need to observe, right? So fine. What is the next type that I have? I have character type. What is the size of this character? I have only one byte. The size of this character is 1 byte. What is the syntax to create the character type? Please understand this. So first I have to write the data type. Data type is char. Then after that you have to write the variable. I can also write, it's not that I have to write this alpha. I can also write just hello k. I'll just write k. So what is that I'm trying to store? I will be able to store only one character in this variable. I cannot write, so a1, I cannot write a1. Please remember that. I cannot write a1. I should be able to store only one character. That's very, very important, right? The same rules applies for character also, what I have discussed in the previous slide. So moving on to the next one, I have float. What is the size of float? 4 bytes. Int 2, character 1, this is 4 bytes. 4 bytes in the sense 32 bits. Data type size differ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. Remember, so this is what you have to understand. So float ಅಂದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಯಾವ ತರ values? Please understand this dot, floating points. This is what you have to understand. First data type na ನೀವು ಬರಿಬೇಕು ಯಾವುದು? Float. ಆಮೇಲೆ variable name. ಆಮೇಲೆ value. How many variables I have created? 1. So if I want to create more than 1, how do I do it? Same thing. First you will write the data type, float, then variable name a, b, 10.35, right? B value 10.35. A is a variable of type float. A is a variable of type float. B is a variable of type float. Sir, ನೀವು ಹೇಗೆ ಅಸೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಬಿಗೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಮಾಡಿದಿರಾ? ಒಂದೇ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಗೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗದಾ? ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಫ್ಲೋಟ್ a is equal to 10.35, comma b is equal to 10.45. 10.4, okay? 10.4. That's what you have to understand. I can do that, right? This is how I will be assigning the float values. What is the next one I have? I have double. So same thing, you will just write double as a data type and then you will write the variable list, but it will help you to store the double precision. It will help you to store the double precision. That's what you have to understand. The floating point range will be more when compared to the float, right? So that's a advantage that you have whenever you're storing with a double type. Void, please remember here you are using the void in the main function. If you're writing this void, it means to say that this function does not return anything. It does not return any value. That's what you have to understand. That's what you have to understand. The other word, both the set of values and set of operations are empty. It does not return anything. In short, you have to understand. Adu eno return madalla, kali. It does not return anything. So please remember, this is a function. Ee function no yen value no return madalla. Ee function yen value no return madalla. That is what you have to understand. If I write it as void, void ಬದಲು ಬೇರೆ ಏನಾದರೂ ಬರೆದ್ರೆ it will return. So ಬೇರೆ ಏನು ಬರೀತೀರಾ ಸರ್? ಏನು ಬರೆಯೋಕ್ಕೆ ಚಾನ್ಸಸ್ ಇದೆ? I will be explaining that in the coming sessions. Okay, so please understand that. Void ಅಂತ ಬರೆದ್ರೆ ಈ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಏನೂ ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. That's what you have to ರಿಮೆಂಬರ್. ಏನಂತ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು, ನಾನೇನಾದರೂ ಬೈದರೆ, ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ನೀವೇನಾದ್ರು ನನಗೊಂದು 1000 ರೂಪೀಸ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕಪ್ಪ, ನಾನೇನಾದರೂ ಬೈದರೆ ನೀವೇನು ನಂಗೆ ಕೊಡಲ್ಲ. ಓಕೆ, ಇದು ಬೈಯೋದು ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಬೈದರೆ ಇದೇನಾದ್ರು ಕೊಡುತ್ತಾ, ಏನು ಕೊಡಲ್ಲ. ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತಾ, ಏನು ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಬೈಬಾರ್ದು. ಸೊ ದಟ್ಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್? ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ modifiers. Sir, I have all the different data types, right? Character, integer, and double. So I have all these data types. Before I explain this concept, let's take an example. ನಾನೊಂದು ಅಂಗಡಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ, if I go to the shop and if I ask for the shirt, ನಾನೊಂದು ಶರ್ಟ್ ಕೇಳ್ತೀನಿ, ಒಂದು ಶರ್ಟ್ ಕೊಡಿ ಸರ್ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. He will give me so many shirts of different size. Generally, what is his mistake? It is my mistake. ನಾನು ಕೇಳಿದ್ದೇನು, ಸರ್ ಶರ್ಟ್. He has given the shirt, but if I ask him, sir, medium size shirt kodi, which will fit me exactly. Sir, large size shirt kodi, which will fit me exactly. Sir, XXL shirt kodi. So like that, I will be mentioning it precisely. So that's what you have to understand. In the same way, when I am using integer, I should specify precisely if I want signed int, unsigned int, long int, short int, like this. For example, for all the data types, I have to precisely mention it based on the data that I am storing precisely. If you want to be more precise, you can use this modifiers. You can use this modifiers is what you have to understand. If you are using signed value or unsigned value, so you can specify whether you are using unsigned or signed values, whether you are using short value or whether you are using long value. So you can specify with the data type. That's what you have to understand. Moving on to the next one, I have derived data types. So guys, we have already discussed, we have 4 derived data types: arrays, functions, pointers, and reference, which I will be discussing in detail in the coming chapters. So guys, the next one is user-defined data types. User-defined data types, you have classes, you have structures. It's very, very important. So, and also you have unions. So all this user-defined data types, I will be dealing this data types in detail with the chapter, so which you have in your coming classes. So with this, I have come to an end of this session, which completes the concept of different data types. So I want all of you to make a note of all the important things. Please read, please watch this again and again until you get the clarity. So guys, till then, take care of your health, take care of your family, respect your parents. Take care. Bye bye. I'll sign off. Thank you, everybody.